Hello, how are you doing today? My name is John Cherry, and I want to welcome you back to this tutorial series. And in this lesson, I'm going to start out by showing you some different ASP.NET Web Forms server controls. And before I go on from there, I want to show you that I changed the Bootstrap CSS library to a different theme. And how I did that is I opened up one of my web browsers here, and I went to bootswatch.com. And when I went to Bootswatch, I went down here, and there's many different Bootstrap themes that you can pick from here. You have the Curlin, Cosmos, Cyborg theme, but I went down here and picked the Lumen theme. And I'll kind of give you a heads up what it looks like. If you click the preview, you'll get some of the view of what the default Bootstrap buttons look like, nav bars, and there's different things for you to choose from and pick the one that you prefer. There's really no wrong choice. They all look nice. So we're going to subsequently use the Lumen theme throughout this whole tutorial. Just wanted to show you what some of the pagination, pagers, progress bars. I like it. It's kind of an elegant look, but just FYI. And the way you do that is you go back here, click this little button arrow. Once you click here, you'll see the minified version or the CSS version. I'll click that. You'll open it up once it downloads, and it's right here. And one thing you can do is you can do Control A, Control C, and then you can go to where your Bootstrap template is and Control A, Control V, Control S, and then you have everything set up for yourself. So that's how I did that, and I just want to do that because that's the theme we're going to be running from. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to create a new web forms page, ASPX page. So I highlight the folder that I wanted to create. So what I did is I added a new folder. I right clicked on my solution, put add new folder, right? When I did that, I created the name lesson 1 server controls. So that's where, and I will delete that folder, that's where this section will be in. And the subsequent sections, I will create new folders for those sections. And once this source code is made available at the end of this tutorial, you'll see it all right there. So I'm going to right click lesson 1. I'm going to click add new item. I'm going to go to web form. In the web form, I'm going to name the actual server controls I'm going to show you in this one. So I'm going to put Textbox button. So I'm going to show you the text box and I'll show you the button. So I'm going to click add. You want to place the code in a separate file so you have a code behind. We're not going to select the master page. I'm going to show you that later in a subsequent lecture. So I'll click add, and there's my web form. So here it's located. If you click the little arrow, you'll see the code behind file, which will all be our strongly typed C# code that connects back to our user interface in the ASPX page. So I'm here. The first thing I want to do is I can change the title. Let's say Introduction Text Box Button. And the first things I want to do is I want to gather the libraries that I need as far as my Bootstrap libraries and my Bootstrap JavaScript libraries, and also jQuery, because Bootstrap JavaScript file for Bootstrap requires jQuery. So I'm going to drag my Bootstrap here, CSS. It's very easy. You can just highlight it and drag it across, and it incorporates the library. Oh, let me go back, Control Z. Same thing. Let's go get jQuery. Got the minified version. Let's go here. We got our jQuery there. And let's get our Bootstrap JavaScript library. Drag it here. Now we have all the subsequent libraries we need to perform our first web form, And what I'm going to typically do for this section is I'm going to create the basic controls and show you them, show you what they look like. And then I'm going to actually design them in Bootstrap in the next section so you can kind of see what they look like and give you kind of a basic functionality of what they are. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you is that on this side here, once you have your web form created, you're going to go to Toolbox. And now there are so many different things in this toolbox. This is one thing I love about ASP.NET Web Forms it's drag and drop functionality. So I'm going to kind of go through some of these. First thing we're going to be looking at in this section is the server controls, and it's under standard. And these are all the server controls that are in ASP.NET Web Forms. You have add rotator, button, calendar, drop down lists, file upload, a hidden value, image if you want to have href images linked and run it at the server. You have list box, radio button, text box, even XML. So there's so many that come out the box. It's unbelievable. You also have in the next subsequent sections, I'll show you these data source controls, which are available too, as far as for grid views that render tables, data sources, connecting back to the data that you want to pull into your web form. And we will go into each one of the important ones here later. So from there, we also have validation controls that you could do, making a text box or any type of field required. Also, you can validate based on an expression. If you want it to be an email, you can do a comparison validator between two of them. That's also available in a control. You also have a summary, a validation summary, which can summarize all your error message in one section. You also have login controls, which are nice. They come out the box. You can create user wizard, change passwords, and kind of make a default for yourself, which are very nice. We also have web parts. I'm not going to go much into those. You have Ajax extensions. We have a section on doing Ajax, which does partial page postbacks. This is very nice. Not having to write as much JavaScript. The ASP.NET Web Forms engine handles the Ajax itself, and I will show you how that works. Dynamic data, that's covered in different tutorials, subsequent tutorials. Not in this lecture, but in other lectures, you can find information about that. Reporting, you can pull in some Visual Studio reports similar to SSRS. And HTML controls, which we'll be using too in conjunction with the ASP.NET Web Form server controls. So I like to use both of these, and when I can, I like to use these controls because they render better with HTML5 sometimes. So that's our different login controls. Let's go here and let's actually start dragging on controls. Before we do that, you have a design view, you have a split view, and a source view. And I'm going to kind of show you how this works. I like working in source, but let me show you in split view. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go to standard control, and I'm going to drag on a text box control. Watch what I do. Bam. Control S. You'll see right here in the designer, right? If you go in design view, you'll see the text box there. And if you go in source, you'll just see it here. So let's delete it. And let's go back and show you in design view. You can pick any view you want, but let's go ahead and drag a text box. Right there, as you can see in design view, go back to source, there's your text box. So that's a nice functionality. It's just drag and drop. And that's one thing I love about ASP.NET Web Forms. It's just drag and drop. Other way you can put control on a page, it gives you Visual Studio gives you IntelliSense to help you pick the control. So you put the little side arrow here, type ASP, and then you can search, and in this case we're going to put text box. It automatically filters to what you want, which I love about this. So first thing we'll do is we have our text box, and then let's go back and put ASP button. We're going to make an ID for it, and let's make it button 1. And we always have to put for the server controls run at server, is you want these controls to grasp all their functionality. They need to run at the server side, so the server side will render the HTML. So we have those set up, and some of the functions of a text box, as you can see, if you press you have the auto post back, which we'll go into in a little bit. The client ID mode if you want it to be static, the CSS classes, which we will need for incorporating JavaScript, incorporating the Bootstrap CSS libraries. You have a lot of different things that come with it. Some of the styling that come default on text changes are different events that happen with it. And this is kind of what we have out of the box with ASP.NET Web Forms for the text box. Same thing with the button with the on click, which we'll go into in the next lecture. So let's go here. I want to show you how this looks off the top. So you can either right click the web form itself, click view in browser, or you can actually debug the project by going over here, start debugging by pressing F5 or control F5 to run without debugging. But in this case, I'm just going to right click and view in browser. So give it time. And as you can see, there's nothing on my button here, so let me actually put some text on it. So let's go here, put text. And then we'll put first. Right. So we'll go back to our web page. Let me close out of this. Let's right click view in browser. So you'll see right here, we have our first button. That's our first text box with our button. So then from there, I'm going to show you the subsequent one, which is the HTML control, which kind of renders the same, just the events are a little different. So instead of having to do a full server control, let's do an HTML server control. So let's drag on a text box, right? And the key thing here is to put on this text box, run it at the server side, so that we can have those different events tied to it, which we want. So then, one thing nice about these HTML5 controls, they render better with HTML5, and you have a lot of different attributes that connect to it, and you can still perform some of the events with it. You know, you don't have the on text change, but you do have other server events that you can wait for it. I just like using them sometimes when I can, because they render better with HTML5. So then let's do input type button, and then ID button 2, and run at server. And then we have those two there. So let's look at see how this looks in our browser. So I like to right click sometimes, and you want to rebuild your website. Sometimes you have to rebuild the DLLs for it, or some changes won't happen. But in this case, you can save it. It will be all right in render. So right now we have it next to it. So let's go back here. Let's make a break. And then let's make this text. Input. Let's make the text here. Yeah. Let's put the button. It should be input right here. Let's make it first, second. And let's see if that builds right. And there it is. Huh. Why did it render that way? Let me go back here. Give me 1 second. Another one you can do is you can do the button like this, which I like too. This is the new HTML5 one, and you can put text second, and then put ID. Let's say button 2, and then let's go here, and then let's make that run at server. Server. There we go. Now let's look at it. Oh, where am I at? I thought I had it ready set up. And there we go. We have the first one tied to it, which is a normal ASP.NET web form server control, ASP.textbox, and a button. And also for this one, we have an actual HTML server control and an HTML server control with the button. So these are the two elements we have. In the next section, I will actually go into designing these. I will have these designed to show you the CSS with Bootstrap, and then I will actually tie a few events to these to kind of show you how they work. So I want to thank you very much for joining me in this tutorial series, and I look forward to seeing you next one. Have a nice day.